momento prego la chiamano per una collettiva. Bleiben Sie bitte am Apparat, Sie werden für ein Konferenzgespräch verlangt. Un instant s'il vous plaît, on vous demande pour une conversation conférence.
Pronto? Ciao Poppy! Adesso vi passo Chiara!
We're going on a tour around the world. It'll take a bit of time because the world's quite big.
È una conferenza telefonica.
It's a conference call where I give a strong spiritual thought that we can live together. When we call the zones and they answer, hello, how are you? So it's the life of a family. It's wonderful. Its aim is to help us go on a holy journey, a journey towards holiness.
Venerdì 20 giugno.
Friday, the 20th of June, marked the end of the earthly life of Maria Voce Emmaus, who was president of the Focolare movement from 2008 to 2021, the first president after the founders, Chiara Lubich. Those who were able to follow the funeral will have seen how many people came to say a worldwide thank you to her for having given her life to God, right to the end. This is what Margaret Karram, president of the Focolare movement, said in a message to all the communities of the movement. Now we would like to re-listen to an excerpt from the last interview she gave a few months ago when she was asked if she wanted to say something to all the Focolare communities in the world.
I would like to say, let's keep going as we're doing now. Let's keep going ahead without looking back. Let's carry on believing in the future. Let's keep going. There's definitely a tomorrow because God always wins. Of course, if we look at the world as it is today, we become discouraged. Many times we get discouraged. Even I get discouraged when I turn on the television. Sometimes I turn it off so I don't have to watch because there's nothing but bad news here. Why don't they sometimes report at least one piece of good news? Pick one at least. Highlight the one that's there. But they say, oh, it's difficult to find. I'll find it for you. If you don't have anything, I'll send it to you. I know how much good news there is, and I know this because I know all of you. I know the life you are taking ahead in so many places. I know this life, and I know that this life will triumph. I know this because the devil can unleash all the forces he wants, but he won't win because only God always, always, always wins. And we with him. If we are united with him, we will win with him. And this is what we want, to win with God. Without God, we don't want to go anywhere.
To win with God. What a powerful invitation to start off this link-up. Greetings to all those who are following us from all over the world. My name is Walter Hugo Muniz. I'm Swiss-Brazilian. I work at the World Council of Churches, and I'm also the proud father of Tainá, Yara and Davi, who together with my wife Flavia fill my life with joy and commitment. We're right here at the International Center, and it's so beautiful to see so many. Welcome to everybody. And with us is also Cardinal Ottavani, who's here with some bishops. Thank you for having come to visit us. In today's link-up, we will talk about various topics and experiences, but one aspect lies at the heart of it all: peace. A peace that is unarmed and disarming, as Pope Leo told us in his very first greeting after his election. A peace that is the fruit of encounter and of dialogue. I assure you there will be a very interesting journey. Now imagine you are on a ship sailing on the Mediterranean, full of young people of various nationalities, cultures and religions, all committed to peace. This idea originated from the Espoir Association and the Diocese of Marseille, which, in the spirit of the Mediterranean encounters, organized the Med Odyssey 25. Having set off in March, this cool ship of peace is sailing in the Mediterranean right now with 8 groups of 25 young people. Each group completes a part of the journey, and the journey will come to an end in October. Amongst the young people, there are some young peace ambassadors from Living Peace, a peace education course, and some youth for a united world from the Focolare movement. Let's see what they tell us.
Greetings from the Espoir sailing ship, where we are concluding the 4th stage of this wonderful school of peace in the Mediterranean. The topic we're exploring is dialogue, interreligious and intercultural dialogue, but also dialogue within our personal relationships in everyday life. Living Peace International has involved the young leaders and ambassadors of peace from our network, as well as some Youth for a United World, who joined us in some of the stages of this journey. When we were 30 kilometers from our destination, which was Lebanon, where a 3-day program awaited us, we had to turn back to Cyprus because war had broken out in the area, putting it in danger. For us, this is an even stronger conviction to bear witness with our lives that peace is possible. Circumstances forced us to seek inner peace by accepting that war changes lives and that it has also affected us, preventing part of our project and the fulfillment of our dream, Lebanon.
Witnessing this event with our own eyes made us feel the need to pray together, with different spiritualities and languages, but with one heart in this Mare Nostrum.
Witnessing the missile exchanges above my head made me realize the urgency of living this school of peace when faced with the reality of war. As a Muslim, I wish you peace in your heart.
The collective commitment with which we responded was amazing. The strongest among us comforted the more sensitive. We suffered together and rediscovered the great value of empathy. In the meantime, I brought you right there at the AV Control Center. From here, our link-up for the whole world start off. In addition to simultaneous translations into 5 languages, there are those who take care of the sound, lighting and video, and the director, Maria Matacalò, is also with us. And from here, the live link-ups also start. Joining us today are some of the participants of the Minneapolis in Kazakistan, which has just concluded. Luca, are you there? Hello. Hello, I'm Brother Luca. I'm Franciscan friar from the province of Assisi. I lived here in Kazakistan 11 years as a parish priest of different parishes, which is a country where 20 million inhabitants of different races and religions live peacefully. I immediately started to propose the word of life as an experience to live the gospel in a concrete way. And during the summer, with some men and women Focolarini who had come from Russia, from other countries, we held the Mariapolis. And later we experienced a temporary Focolare in Kazakistan.
My name is Jarka. I'm in the Focolare in Prague. When I heard that there was an opportunity to participate in the temporary Focolare in Kazakhstan, I gladly went to Taldi Kurgan in 2017. There, I met Vika and Kotya, two young people who were preparing to get married. And then, after their wedding, they went to the Gem Fest in the Philippines in 2018. I was struck by how there were Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, and some Muslim friends in this predominantly Islamic country were drawn to how dialogue is being lived out in the Focolare movement. In the Mariapolis that's just concluded, I was struck by how they perceived the theme of closeness. For example, Sveta wanted to write down the points on how to live love of neighbor in a practical way. Hello, everyone. We're Vika and Kolya, and we live in Almaty. After almost 15 years of taking part in the Mariapolis, this year seemed to us to be the most profound Mariapolis. We're very happy that this is already the second year that the temporary Focolare has taken place in our country, at home for us. And thanks to this, we can deepen and experience the spirituality of unity. For the past 6 years, a group which is seeking to live the word of life has been meeting online due to the great distances between us, in which two friends, also an Orthodox and an evangelical friend, participate. We too, with all of you, want to strive for a united world. Bye, everyone.
Hi, let's speak one. Well, how marvelous. It's very moving to see everyone's effort to be together. Thank you for your experience. It really touched us. So now, to work for peace, justice and fraternity, which are our goals, it is sometimes necessary to stop, to check where we stand, to redefine strategies and goals for the future, and ensure that we can always better respond to our vocation, that is, to live for unity. This is precisely the opportunity that every 5 years the General Assembly of the Focolare movement offers us. We are all called to contribute, and it is important to do so. How? Well, we're going to find out very soon. Have a look at this.
Hello everyone. As you may already know, the upcoming months will be very important for the Focolare movement. In fact, the preparation phase for the Ordinary General Assembly is about to begin. The Assembly will take place from the 1st to the 21st of March 2026. A process that, with everyone's participation and support, will set the plan of action for the next 5 years, and where the renewal of the organs of the central government of the movement will take place. Margaret Karram, the President, will begin the process by convening the General Assembly by writing to all. The General Assembly is the movement's first and most important governing body. It is currently held every 5 years and represents all of its different components. The tasks of the Assembly are to strengthen the unity of the whole movement, to elect the President, Co-Presidents and the General Councillors, to decide on any changes to the General Statutes and the various regulations, to set out programs, lines of action and priorities concerning the life of the movement for the next 5 years. Also as a response to the major challenges and difficulties, both at a world and a local level, in the different social and cultural contexts in which the movement operates. To ensure the involvement of all the people who live the Focolare spirituality and the participation of each person belonging to the movement of all vocations, it is essential that in all the groups of the movements there is a process of mutual listening and discernment in line with the style of the Synod. The program of the Assembly will begin on the 1st of March 2026 with a 3-day spiritual retreat. This will be followed by an in-depth discussion of the proposed topics, followed by the elections of the President, Co-President and General Councillors. After the elections, the analysis of the topics presented at the Assembly will be concluded so as to identify the movement's priorities for the next 5 years. The contribution of the communities present in the different areas of the world will be fundamental in this process, both in the preparation phase and in the phase following the Assembly, when the guidelines that have been identified will be put into practice. These communities will play a central role in listening together to the promptings of the Holy Spirit and collaborating as one family to build the present and future of the Focolare movement at the service of all humanity. How can you contribute? It's simple. Anyone who wishes to express ideas and proposals, whether as individuals or groups within the Focolare movement, can contact the communities in their area. If you have any questions or require any clarifications regarding the preparation process for the Assembly, please email the following address. We hope that we all have a fruitful experience as we approach the 2026 General Assembly.
Peace begins within us, within me and from me, from you, from each person, just like war does. A world conflict can be triggered by a bomb that explodes in Sarajevo or by an action carried out in Gdansk, and so can peace. If other people hate, it doesn't mean that we should also hate. We overcome evil with good, sickness with health. We oppose hostility with charity. This is God's commandment. The commandment also applies in politics, above all in politics, where irrational passions are unleashed, and it becomes more difficult to maintain serenity, peace, whereas it becomes almost heroic to preserve love within the vortex of ambition, scheming and destitution. But Christ wanted to redeem even politics, to restore it to a role of peace, of life. Come, my brother in exile, let us embrace each other, wherever you may be, whatever your name is, no matter what you're doing. You are my brother. What does it matter to me if nature and social conventions are working to separate you from me through names, definitions, restrictions and laws? Our heart isn't held back. Our will suffers no limits. And with an effort of love, we can cross all these divisions and be reunited as a family. Unknown brother, love your country, your fragment of the common ground that supports us, but don't hate mine. Beneath all the frills, beyond the different codes of social classifications, you are the soul that God created like a sister to my own and to that of every other person. Only the Father's unique. And you are like every other person who suffers and perhaps makes others suffer, who has needs more than abilities, who fluctuates, who gets tired, who's hungry, thirsty, sleepy, just like me, just like everyone else. In you I recognize the Lord. Be free. And from now on, since we are brothers, let us embrace each other.
Come sono attuali queste parole di Igino Giordani, anche se sono passati 100 anni da quando sono state scritte. Sono accanto a Jesús Morán, co-presidente del movimento del Focolare. Jesús, tu hai fatto dei viaggi in alcuni paesi di America Latina che poi si è
Countries, and you concluded the trip in the United States.
Vorrei chiederti una cosa, Jesús.
I'd like to ask you something.
Iniziamo dall'Ecuador.
Or rather, let's begin with Ecuador. In the text we listened to earlier, Igino Giordani spoke of fraternity. How is it possible to live fraternity to the full between peoples as different as those you met there?
First, I want to greet my friends from Chile because I've also been in Chile. Hello to you all. The experience we lived while in Ecuador with various representatives of 40 indigenous peoples from Latin America, from Mexico to Chile, was truly extraordinary. I think it was a prophetic sign. Rimarisum, it's a Quechua word that we translate as let's dialogue. It represents the dream of a truly fraternal America. That's, if we look at the past, because you can't forget it, this experience helps to heal the wounds of history. They're still alive, these wounds, and it looks to the future with hope. And this is what we experienced. You could see it in the joy of all the people who were there. It's something new, this Rimarisum in the Focolare movement, and it's just been born. But I think it's very important because basically you can't think of unity in the American continent without the contribution of the indigenous peoples. Yes, Rimarisum wasn't born just something automatic like that. There are years and years of meetings, of personal relationships, wanting to value the other person as they are with their language, with their culture. And I think the film that we're going to see says a lot more than this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, really. So let's watch together this that has been prepared for us.
Bienvenidos, hermanos.
Welcome, brothers and sisters. May our interculturality be not only between human beings, but also with nature. May it be an encounter so as to plant a seed.
Our very hyper-developed society speaks to us of technologies of artificial intelligence. Here we discover that there is an intelligence, a deeper wisdom that comes from the native people. So it is important that this grows ever more in such a way that with this meeting, Rimarisum no longer belongs only to Ecuador.
Rimarition is a meeting space to generate fraternal intercultural dialogue. It is also a space where, starting from a lived experience, it is possible to put into practice this concept of interculturality that often remains only a concept, perhaps that is rather technical, academic, but which we fail to bring to life.
We left to go to the house of Monsignor Leonidas Proaño. He's known as the Bishop of the Indios. He had settled there in the late 1960s and early 1970s, a period coinciding with the liberation theology movement. It was meaningful and symbolic to be all gathered together around his tomb.
All of this came together in me in an enormous unity, and in the rituals that we live there, the rituals of the Afro and indigenous people. To tell you the truth, it struck me a lot, and when I opened myself up to that experience, I felt an enormous communion with that Christ who unites us.
Today we had a very special day at the Pontifical Catholic University of Ecuador in Iba. Several academic participants spoke about the different ways in which we approach these topics of fraternity and interculturality.
I'm very happy and also proud to know about this reality. For me, it is like a dream to come here, to see so many different nationalities, and I take away with me in my heart the impression that we are all equal and we are all one.
Y somos uno solo. Ahora, amorosamente yo le invito a que cada uno de ustedes se mezcle y que se regalen unos a los otros esa luz.
I have been left with things that have filled me with emotions, because I have seen that every culture of all the various countries has its own ritual, art does too, but we should also share it.
Me llevo oportunidades.
I take with me opportunities and hopes, and above all, I take with me the possibility of a new life in fraternity, in communion with all the cultures of the world, made up of a single species.
Mucha alegría.
A lot of joy, a lot of fellowship with the people, and I think it's a nice space. I feel that I've been invited to go to the roots, to put into practice what we've learned during these days.
We have to continue working and creating meeting spaces, not only this kind of meeting space, but also spaces where we can come and share with one another, you with me and I with you.
Spaces of communion with creativity and openness of heart. These words, Jesus, make me think of when you speak of creative and dynamic faithfulness. How have you seen it carried out in the various countries that you've been? So, in the various stages of this journey of yours.
I want to say something that we saw here in the video. You saw that we were planting trees. Each tree was for someone who'd lived, who died, and who'd been part of this reality of Rimarisum. And soon these will be big trees, and we know that these trees represent people. Rimarisum Also, the workshop that we held a week earlier of this event in Medellin on conflict mediation, and also we had the peace event that took place 2 weeks later in Washington, D.C., which will be presented later. They are a sign of the vitality of the charism of unity. And as you say, according to me, they are a magnificent example of creative and dynamic faithfulness to the charism, because these initiatives reflect a deep urgency in today's world that challenge our lives, and they demand new ideas, new responses. In fact, the people touch the heart of the ideal of unity, because peace, intercultural dialogue, and conflict resolutions at all levels are nothing more than different expressions of the ideal of unity. We're always working for unity. We're always trying to build this culture of unity. And with this effort to live creative faithfulness on the basis of what we've done in the past, it's not that we've done nothing before, but on the basis of this, we have to go back and take up again our spiritual resources and cultural resources so as to see them up to date as they are today. This is the challenge that we have. But after this journey, I've seen we've got something to say, we've got a lot to do, but we have got something to offer as an idea.
It's amazing how these meetings, these journeys transform us as well, don't they? So, thank you so much, Jesus. And now, to continue to discover the many seeds of peace that cross the continents, we will take you to Washington, D.C. in the United States. There, we will discover how people who live the charism of unity face the challenges of polarization and then build bridges of peace, fraternity, dialogue.
Washington, D.C. is a city in the news on an almost daily basis. Yet there's so much more going on that flies under the media's radar. The lives and efforts of many in Washington and throughout North America who work for world peace and unity. This network was on full display during Margaret Karram and Jesús Morán's recent visit to D.C. in May. Years ago, there was an intriguing headline in the Washington Post that called the city America's most hopeful place. That journalist had his own reasons for drawing that conclusion, but it was certainly hope that rang true in every meeting this past May. It's a hope that has deep roots after a very special visit back in 2000 when Kiara Lubick went to Washington. She was invited by Imam Warith Deen Muhammad, the leader of the Muslim American Society.
A lady that when I first saw her, I knew that she was blessed by God and that she had something that my soul wanted.
During that visit, a project called Operation Unity Washington, D.C. began. Kiara herself explained it in a conference call with members of Focolare throughout the world.
Quando mi sono recata per la prima volta negli Stati Uniti
during my first visit to the United States in 1964, admiring this great nation, I wrote in my diary, "America has made a great impression on me. There isn't arrogance, but instead a distinct sense of internationality. There is simplicity. This time, too, I had the same impression. But another detail came to light. Here, an infinite number of countries are represented by individuals, groups, ethnicities. However, they're often closed in on themselves, divided from one another. So once again, I felt certain it's the ideal, our ideal, that can turn these many ethnic groups into one people. This is what the United States will be able to offer to the world. This awakened in me an ardent desire to give our contribution so that this country, where the movement's been present for many years and is spread in various parts, in time can give to the world its highest aim, a formidable example of unity.
Today, 25 years later, Chiara's vision of Washington as being a converging point for individuals, groups, and ideas has taken tangible steps forward. The Focolare Center for North America, which includes the United States, Canada, and Haiti, has been established near the city center, and Operation Unity has become increasingly structured to promote this effort of dialogue between people, groups, and races.
The roots of hope planted during Chiara's Lubick visit in the year 2000 have produced many fruits. Let us now hear what NextNow is, a project based on intercultural and interreligious dialogue. As you will see, for this meeting, Margaret Karram was connected online from Italy. She was in Rome then, where she attended the funeral of Pope Francis and the election of Pope Leo.
So, welcome to
NextNow is a team that promotes Muslim-Christian dialogue at a grassroots level.
We see you and your beautiful smiles and energy.
With a specific focus on the legacy of the spiritual friendship between Imam W.D. Muhammad and Chiara Lubick. Periodically, local groups gather across the U.S. to celebrate the bond that unites them. This was the case on May 10th and included a special greeting from Margaret Karram.
I attended a Catholic school where my classmates were both Arab Christians and Muslims.
The NextNow group meets online. They read the Word of Life from each faith tradition. The communities throughout the country also plan shared activities of outreach in their respective cities. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the meeting in Washington in 2000. Imam Talib M. Sharif was there that day.
It was my birthday, and my wife, we were both there together. And it was very strategic. You know, everybody, you couldn't sit with his members, and we wanted to mix it. We were able to speak as just common members of a community, not as the leaders. And I had never seen that before. And it was so beautiful. We have to embrace each other, regardless of labels. See, regardless of labels, that's the picture. Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Latino, whether you're African, whether you're European, whatever, and that's the universal picture. And that's what's happening with the NextNow movement. It's an invitation in itself to embrace our shared humanity, common origin, and identity as human, and to value our intrinsic nature to live together intelligently in the spirit of universal love and kinship.
From intercultural and interreligious dialogue, we take you now to the Sustainable Peace Networks Forum, an initiative that involved representatives of numerous international organizations. They met to reflect on common projects to build peace.
On the 21st and 22nd of May, 120 peace workers from 90 organizations gathered for a forum called Sustainable Peace Networks, Multi-View and Multi-Faith Forum. The event was organized by the Focolare Forum for Dialogue and Culture, together with other partners.
In the difficult world in which we live, I continually search for hope.
Professor Russell Pierce from the Fordham School of Law in New York is part of the team that organized the event.
The forum has brought together a really wide variety of folks from all over the world, from peace groups, both religious and secular. It's not a program where you just have a few, what we would say in the United States, talking heads. But throughout, it's always about encouraging dialogue. I am really very hopeful that out of the forum will come relationships that will build new networks.
Margaret Karram was invited to give the keynote address, where she offered, as she said, 3 seeds of transformation I really see among us.
So the first one is, let's keep walking this path together, deepening our shared commitment to dialogue, peace, and a more united world. Second, let's link our experiences, our stories, sharing our stories, building bridges across borders, and creating a living network that multiplies impact. The third is, let's never underestimate the power of small gestures, because strides toward lasting change always begin with small steps.
Rebecca Cataldi from the International Center for Religion and Diplomacy was a key partner in preparing the event. At her table, the conversation explored what it takes to build collaboration among people with opposing ideologies or policies.
We need relationships to thrive. We need relationships to feel safe, and to feel safe enough to be able to step out of our comfort zone into spaces that might be less comfortable, but we need to enter to build peace. And I think that's really the goal of this gathering here, is not just to build relationships, but build relationships that lead to collaborative action that actually change things for the better.
Now that the spotlight is off the event, it's clear that a new phase is beginning. Tangible projects are in the works to develop an operational network that pools together the strengths of each respective group to create greater impact.
All these projects need to be publicized and supported financially. Focolare Media and Focolare Foundation have emerged as concrete responses to the communion of experiences and the communion of goods. They are projects born in North America, but with the prospect, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, of also being at the service of various entities and projects around the world.
Matteo Potra. I serve as CEO of Focolare Media, which is the communication...
Focolare Media organized a media briefing on May 22nd for a small group of journalists with Margaret Karram. Focolare Media, established in 2022, gathers under a common umbrella the long-standing media expressions of Focolare in North America. Living City Magazine and New City Press Publishing House, along with a budding social media presence. Amy Ullman is a member of the board of directors.
The catchphrase that Focolare Media has developed very recently is to enkindle the spirit of unity in society and in the church. And I love that because this notion of sparking also connects with the intellectual work that we need to do in order to sustain the efforts to share the message of the charism in this culture. I think Focolare Media gives us a vehicle also for reaching deeply into the other areas of dialogue, whether it's interreligious, ecumenical, or also the work that we need to do to heal some of the political polarization and divides in various areas of society.
Margaret and Jesus also met with the newly formed Focolare Foundation, a development that aims to answer Chiara Lubbock's call to the movement in North America for a greater sharing and redistribution of financial resources. It was established in 2024 to help advance the movement's mission by inspiring donations and providing long-term sustainability for initiatives. Emery Koenig and Connie Sui are members of the board of directors.
That all may be one. How do we take care of our brothers? How do we give our excess of those around the world that do need? And I think it's really important that it helps in our spiritual life, and it helps us build a smaller world, quite frankly, and a world with less of the haves and the have-nots, where we really bring that together closer.
We are here starting in the U.S., and hopefully we will, over the years, opening up to support projects internationally. Chiara's dream is big, and we cannot limit ourselves in this small geographical area. And it's not just Chiara's dream, it's all of our dreams into fruition, because that's the design of God, is may they all be one.
We would like to conclude the visit to the United States with a small taste of one of the many encounters Margaret and Jesus had that underlines their desire for dialogue and fraternity in spite of everyday challenges.
On May 21st, Margaret and Jesus had a very special meeting with the group responsible for all volunteers of God in North America. It was a time to share projects and challenges, a major one being polarization. Phil and Laura are volunteers, but as Phil says, they are on opposite sides of the table politically. Nevertheless, they agree on what it means to be a volunteer today.
I mean, to really be committed to living the gospel every day to the best of my ability.
I mean, in many ways, I duplicate what she said.
Not being preachy about it.
And not being preachy about it, which you and I can easily get preachy on things, can't we? But, you know, polarization can come around really easily just on an attitude of how you share something. And we learned a lot from each other yesterday. We learned a great deal, you know?
And now I find that I do that just one-on-one with people. You know, I invite them to explain to me, why do you think that? Why did you say that? What is it that you hope for? And then we build on that. And as soon as the other person realizes, I'm not there to catch them in a mistake or that I really want to hear, we almost always realize that we want the same goal.
I myself, I've got to admit, I can be a polarizing figure. But that's on me. I've got to be able to change that.
Knowing that there's groups of people that are making the effort. You know, in the United States, we have the Common Ground people, we have Focolare, we have Pope Leo speaking about building unity across divisions. That gives me hope.
What a beautiful tour of America from the south to the north. Now I'm here with Margaret. It's so nice to be here with you. I'd like to ask you, could you, about all these journeys you've taken, what's remaining in your heart?
First of all, I want to thank you for this video link-up, which has been so beautiful. It's let me relive all the various stages of all that we've been doing over the last few months. As you said, in the Americas, from the south to the north, I asked myself, but why has God let us go on these journeys? and have these experienced at this very moment in such a particular time for humanity, at a time when conflicts between peoples and divisions are increasing? Jesus has already shared with us his own thoughts on this visit. I'd like to focus on the overall contribution that the Focolare movement can give for peace. I've written a few notes so I don't forget. As we've seen at the Peace Forum in Washington, D.C., we felt a strong desire to continue to be connected and to create a worldwide network of people and organizations that, starting from the bottom, can work together to strengthen peace projects and initiatives, and also to give birth to new ones. This has strengthened in me that we, as a movement, can be this platform of unity, creating the space for this network of networks, which together has a greater impact and a power. We've seen how many organizations participated. I was so amazed to see 90 different organizations all committed for peace, in solving conflicts, to be there that day all together, to see what can we do for peace. And I think that together with Jesus, we came back convinced that we must continue this journey together, deepening our common commitment for dialogue and peace. In fact, we'll be meeting next week with some of these people to plan the next steps and to see how we can keep connected with one another in order to move on from vision to action. So, in this way, the forum won't just have been an isolated event, but the beginning of a journey that we can all follow. Not only in countries where there are conflicts, but precisely wherever we live, everywhere, because we must believe in the power of small actions. In Washington, we visited the Martin Luther King Memorial, where there were many of the sayings of the words that he'd spoken. One in particular has been etched in my heart, something I read there. If you can't fly, then you can run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl, which would be what the toddlers do when they haven't learned to walk. But whatever you do, you have to keep going ahead. I'd like to invite each one of us here, all those who are listening to us, to fill our days with steps forward. Even if they're small steps. But I said they've got to be small, but they've got to be courageous too. Because as we've also heard in the words of Igino Giordani, peace begins within us. In me and from me. From each person. So let's make his message our own. Wherever you are, whatever your name is, whatever you do, you are my brother or sister.
So beautiful. I have the privilege of being able to say something after these wonderful words. For me, really, in my heart, we say, continue to go ahead with the strength of the believing in the small gestures, the power of the small gestures. So we come to an end of our link up. I just give you a huge hug, but I'd like to give a special greeting to the movement in Switzerland.
mas sem esquecer de todos os meus amados brasileiros espalhados pelo mundo inteiro.
And this was in Brazilian for all the Brazilians around the world, I'm sure. Before coming to an end, I would like to remind you of our contacts that you can see right here. You can send us your feedback, the photos you might have taken as you were watching the link up, and also your experiences. Thank you of all you've already sent to us. Some of the witnesses have already been published on the focolare.org site. And there is an experience for Indonesia, and a very soon there'll be one from Slovenia. So, remember that the next link up will be the 27th of September. And don't forget to follow us in the page of YouTube. Here with Margaret, we greet you all. Goodbye.